the scenic town of Nong Khiaw, where we visited caves, travelled on the river and visited ethnic villages. The road journey from Luang Prabang to Nong Khiaw took about 3 hours. After checking into our hotel, we went to a restaurant over the river before travelling on to visit the Pha Tok caves. The next day, we took a long-tailed riverboat up to the Muang Ngoi Noi village. On our return, we visited a waterfall and transferred to kayaks for the final part of the return journey. Next day, we left Nong Khiaw by riverboat and transferred to our coaches at the dam near Dong Nguyen. We then visited the Pak U caves before travelling on to Luang Prabang. It was an early start. We drove over the Nan Kong River and out of town along the Makong River. Soon we were heading north, crossing and then following the Nanu River. Inundated trees as the levels rise behind the new hydroelectric dam. A brief stop, and then we continue north. Another stop to see river weeds being dried for snack foods. We lunch over the river from Nong Khiaw and then went to the Pha Tok caves. Rickety walkways led over the paddy fields to the caves. The caves were used by the Pathet Lao as a hospital, a military base and refuge from bombing. After visiting the first cave, we walked along the hillside to the second. The cave entrance
that column that looks as if it's...
and the view. Inside, we're met by a shrine. When you go ahead. Insects rather than people are now the residents. A sleeping area. It looks like a sort of hornet's nest. An ablutions area.
You got it, Jim?
Is that the way out? There's light.
After visiting the caves, we walked back to our hotel for the evening. Morning mist clung to the hills as we assembled for our river trip. Our guide, Mr. Mick. The longboat arrived, loaded with kayaks for our later use. We're soon underway, and before long reached the bridge at the end of town. Steep hills rise each side of the river. Small boats travel to and fro. We just sit back and enjoy the scenery. as we travel upstream. Washing. Fishing. After a couple of hours, we reach our destination, Mang Ayan village. We wander through the village, absorbing its atmosphere. The sounds of the murmur of voices, chickens and wildlife. A small temple where Sherry gets a lesson in drumming. Cattle and the only bike we saw. Another cockerel with its family. Sausage. We head back towards the river and visit the monastery. Young monks are at work. We board our boat and head back downstream. The river's lively in places. Our next stop is the village Totat Mok. We head through the village and follow the track in a southeasterly direction. And that leads us to the Mok waterfall. Time for a dip.
It was
Our guides brought this al fresco lunch with them. After lunch we head back. Butterflies. Cattle. The boats take us downstream to where we had left our kayaks. The water buffalo look on with interest as we launch our kayaks. And then we paddle the rest of the way back to our hotel in Nong Khiaw. The early morning mist hung in the valley and drifted along the river. We were up early to pack our bags, load them in the minivans, take breakfast and wait for the arrival of our boats. We were away at 7:30, this time heading downstream. Nong Khiaw soon disappeared from view. I wonder how the locals feel as the river expands into a reservoir behind the new hydroelectric dam. Their villages are pushed uphill. Transporting a tractor on 2 boats. The river and the surrounding jungle-clad hills had a serene beauty in the early morning light. Lush vegetation. limestone cliffs and fantastically sculptured peaks in the distance. Lovely reflections from the river. Inundated woodlands have become a forest of dead tree trunks, but there's more scope for fishermen. We've reached the dam. Time to transfer to road transport. An hour and a half later, we arrive at Pak U and take yet another boat to cross the Makul to the Pak U caves, the lower and upper cave.
Ding means what? That big stalactite pointing down, see? That's what the second name is called. Ding Cave.
The upper cave is filled with thousands of Buddha images in the various standard poses. We leave the top cave and climb down to the lower one. This one is open and looks out to Pak U across the Makul. It too is filled with thousands of Buddhas. After our visit, we return to our minibuses and drive to lunch at a restaurant beside the Makul. After lunch, we visited a Lao whisky shop. This whisky is sold in bottles with all manner of insects, lizards and snakes in the liquor. We then saw the manufacture. The rice mash is cooked and then fermented with these leaves and yeast. After a week, it's transferred to these crude stills. Cold water at the top condenses the alcoholic mix, which then runs into these jars. We walk back to our minibuses and are driven to the hotel in Luang Prabang for the night.